you might get a message up on there and I'm going to actually but before I go spotlight Pamela, I would like each of you to introduce yourself, and I'll try to get the role. I missed a couple of you here, and I'm Scott Teeples. I'm from Oregon. And how about Eleanor?
I'm Eleanor Wherry, and I'm from north of Hays, Kansas. I live out in the country.
Okay. How about Faye Spencer?
Kansas.
Pamela, where are you? You go ahead and introduce yourself too.
I'm Pamela Albaro, McIntyre-Albaro, and I live in Tennessee, about 40 miles northwest of Nashville.
Oh, perfect. And I've got somebody on here, and all I see is it Walla?
Wall.
And you're from where?
I'm from the very edge of West Tennessee.
Perfect. I think you got my email that where we are on here. I think you were trying to get on a little early.
I was too early.
Yeah. How about Oleta Edwards? I don't hear her. So how about Barbara? I know Barbara, but I want you guys to.
Hawaii. Barbara from Hawaii.
All right. How are you, Barbara?
Okay.
And Marja?
I got over COVID.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, it's going around again. Marja.
Yes. Oregon.
And Annie.
Annie from Tennessee.
Well, you're not going to be from Tennessee pretty soon. I'm so excited to see you sometime. And Marlene Paul.
Kansas.
And Linda.
Linda Hess from Kansas, and very thankful for what Marlene and Faye do for our organization.
Thank you. And who did I miss? I know there's one more that I missed here someplace. Is it Julia?
Yes.
And where are you from, Julia?
Troy, Tennessee. Down the road from Amy.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn the time over to Pam, and I really appreciate Pam doing this. I'm sure it's going to be another great one there. Again, I'm always looking for people to do these. I'm actually booked up, which is a great thing, up through January. I've got it done there. So, I'm just trying to find her spotlight for everyone. Anyway, all right. I'm going to turn the time over to you, Pam.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for asking me to do this. I'm going to tell you that I am not a professional baker. I'm not a professional presenter. I'm barely a professional FCE person, I guess. I want to thank everyone for being here. I have two of my West Tennessee Western Region members here, and I'm very grateful, but I'm grateful for everyone else, including the young lady that Scott had to remind me my heart's breaking. Okay, enough of that. I am going to show you how I make a potato sourdough bread. I love this bread mainly because I don't have to marry the starter. I can leave it at home when I go on vacation. If I don't want to take it with me or use it, I put it in the fridge. It's good for however long as it does not show a pink color. So real quick, I'm going to show you, this is a starter that I've had for, I don't know, probably 6-8 months or more. I will go about a year and then I'll dump them and start over. Scott, did they get a copy of the PDF, or did they know where the PDF is?
Which PDF are you talking about?
The one with the recipes and the instructions?
I did not. I don't think I sent that out. I don't think I did.
Okay.
No. But I can send that out if you'll. I don't know if you sent it to me or not, and I can check the emails.
If you don't, let me know, and I will send it again.
Okay.
My recipe I've had since 2012. It was shared with me by a friend, excuse me. And she presented it to me the exact same way I just presented it to you. It is one of the easiest sourdoughs I've ever tried. I'm going to move my phone down so you can see what I'm doing. But before we start making anything, I'm going to let you know that you don't have to have a dedicated starter for this. You can make your own using the feeding starter. Basically, the recipe that you would use to feed the starter, you can actually just use that to start the sourdough. The main ingredient is dehydrated potato flakes. You're going to use sugar in the raw. This is for the starter. You're going to use sugar in the raw.
Oh, they're doing that now?
Yeah.
Oh, what they're making?
Sourdough.
Oh, not that I go make sourdough
Yeah, but
bread.
you can learn.
Okay.
And that's another thing. I'm very laid back. If you have a question,
No, you
please
can
just
that.
go ahead and ask it. It won't interrupt me. It won't. It might derail my thoughts, but they'll come back eventually. Sugar in the raw and hot water. I use hot tap water, about 105 to 110 degrees. I do have this handy dandy little thermometer. However, I've learned on my faucet exactly where to put my
You can turn it toward you, Susan. Because I'm not that interested in
I'll
that.
try to mute them if I can figure out who it
okay.
is.
Turn it toward
But
you.
all I do is I know where to put my tap to open it, and it usually comes out within the perfect temperature range that I want. So that's your starter. I'm gonna make one. I always keep several.
Water or
I
milk.
always keep several on the go.
Okay.
And it's the starter recipe, and this is also to feed your starter. 3 tablespoons of
Fresh orange juice.
dehydrated potatoes.
No.
You sure?
Instant potatoes, I guess, is another name for them. Okay.
I think tomorrow.
A half a cup of sugar in the raw. It sounds like a lot, but you're feeding.
Pamela, can I interrupt you for a second? I don't know who's talking in the background, but you're interrupting the lesson. So would you please mute if you're going to talk in the background, please?
I shall.
Thank you.
All right. And you'll notice I have a lot of different vintage, a lot of my supplies, utensils are vintage. That's just the way I roll. Okay, half a cup of sugar in the raw. And that has got like a maple flavor to it, which is really works with my, which really works with my particular sourdough. Again, water about 105 to 110 degrees, and you want exactly 1 cup of hot water. I have a little more, but I will use more. Over the years, I've learned tips and tricks with this particular sourdough. Excuse me. You're going to stir it, but you're not going to like whip it to death. You're just going to kind of give it a little bit of a gentle stir. Okay, I'm going to move you down now. Ready? Hope no one gets dizzy. Okay. So this is my starter, and I've just made this. I'll leave it out on my counter for about 5 days, and if I haven't used it before then I'll start it again. I have, like as I said earlier, I have 3 starters on the go right now. One of them, as I mentioned, is old, and you can tell when I say old, I mean it's older than the other 2. I always cover with cheesecloth. I don't put a tight lid on here. It needs to breathe a little bit. And then this is all covered in the PDF. And I'll make sure that you get it. All right. And I'm a very messy cook. I've tried very hard over the years to make sure that I pick up after myself. Doesn't always work, but I try. All right. Now over here, I have a bowl getting ready. I don't know if you can see, getting ready to make a loaf of bread. First things first, your dry ingredients. 6 cups of bread flour. I highly recommend that you use bread flour. You don't use all-purpose. You don't use self-rising, mainly because this doesn't develop gluten quickly. It needs a while. It sets up for 10 hours the first rise, and the second rise is about 8 to 8.5. So what you'll need to do is you stay with the bread flour. I use I don't know what brands that you have in Kansas or Oregon, but I use either King Arthur or White Lily. If I can get White Lily bread flour, then that's where I go. But if I can't, then I'll go with King Arthur. You're going to do your dry ingredients first, and there's 6 ingredients in this bread. 6 cups of flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, and for that I use either the Madeira sugar or granulated. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of oil, a teaspoon of salt. Oh, lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. I've done this so many times, and this is not my first time doing the oil. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of oil, 1/4 cup of sugar, and a 1.5 cups of hot water. Again, same temperature. And I usually do a little bit more because you can always add water. You can't take away. That isn't going to make sense for a couple of seconds. Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to make it so that you can see, but I don't know how much of it's going to be visible and still be over the bowl. Another name for the Madeira sugar, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Somebody is evaporated cane juice. And that is a 1/4 cup. You can use honey and you can use that. I'm sorry. Did somebody have a question? Okay. And a teaspoon of salt. Am I going too fast for anybody? Okay. Those are your 3 dry ingredients. That's all you need. I tend to try to stir mine up a little bit just because. All right. Now we're working on the wet. It is 1/2 cup of oil. I tend to use grapeseed oil just simply because it doesn't flavor, but I think anything that you use would be fine. My starter, and it's 1 cup. What you see in there is the potato flakes. They don't dissolve all the way, which is what you want. And a 1.5 cups of water. And I always reserve a little bit. Okay. I'm going to put this on a low stir to start with. I learned the hard way. very first time I did this, I had sourdough starter and everything else all over the kitchen. Now, while that's mixing, let me tell you a few things really quick. This dough makes a fantastic cinnamon roll dough, which that also is included in the PDF. I'll make sure that Scott gets that.
All out for
I'm sorry. I'm not working on this is a wet dough. It's not a dry dough. I don't know if you can see the bowl a little better. But I'm working with a wet dough. So if by chance, sorry, I know y'all are getting dizzy. If by chance it is a dry dough, that's when I use the extra water. See, there's the gluten. This is about the gluten that you're looking for. This kitchen is not set up for filming. I wish it was. Okay. You're going to cover this with press and seal. And all I'm doing is incorporating the ingredients. I'm not feeding the dough to a kneading or anything other than that. And I'll leave it right in my mixer. I'll cover it with press and seal or not aluminum foil. I try to keep metal away from the dough and starter as much as possible, but I will cover it and leave it sit on the counter or on the machine for 10 to 10 and a half hours. What you're looking for is for it to come into a smoother dough. It doesn't look as broken up. All right. This is about 10 hours in. I made this dough last night. This is another container. It has doubled in size. And there's the difference. If you can see it, it's more of a wetter dough. It's got some gluten filled up, if you can see. So you're getting some strands of gluten, but you're not wanting as much as you would get with a kneaded dough. Okay. At about 10 hours, you're going to divide it into, it says 3 pans. I do much better with my larger pans. And then these are greased. Again, I use the grapeseed oil. All I could think of was olive. That's not what I wanted. I use the grapeseed oil. You want it to sit on your counter uncovered for about 8 to 8.5 hours. Then it's and this is more on time. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is with some sourdoughs, you'll knead it until it reaches a certain consistency. This is not that kind of bread. I do make that bread and enjoy it, but this particular sourdough for me is so simple that I can do it. I can feed it in one morning, make the dough that night. The next morning, I will divide it and then let it rise for 8 hours and put it in my oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. So the dough I usually do 2 pans, and I cheat. I don't do bread pans. I don't use bread pans for all of it. I will usually do 1 loaf pan, and then this is a small, I think it's a 5-quart. Sorry. It is a 2-quart Dutch oven that I will bake it in here for a sourdough bowl. I'm going to slip this in the oven for a second. Now, I would love to show you the dividing the dough out and getting it started in the pans. I don't know how much time I have allotted, Scott, so can you let me know if that's
You have all the time you need.
Oh, well, in that case, here I'm rushing you ladies through this.
I think I only have I have the Zoom set up for 3 hours, so.
If we go to 3 hours, somebody shoot me. All right. So then let me show you. Let me take this dough, and I'm going to show you how I portion my bread out for the pans. I also use, when I'm doing my bread on the board, I use bread flour because that actually helps with the gluten as well. I don't like the oil because I think it puts too much on the bread, and you can have, or on the dough, and you can have problems with it rising. I started to tell you, one of the things my family enjoys with this is cinnamon rolls, homemade cinnamon rolls. I like to use the cinnamon rolls and turn it into pull apart bread, monkey pull apart bread. I just cut it, fix it just like the cinnamon rolls call for, and I cut them up with a pair of kitchen scissors. But so I will take my starter, or my dough, excuse me, out of the container, and it is a strong, that's not the word I'm looking for. This dough is, yeah, I guess maybe strong. It takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it out of the container or the bowl. The other thing, I always try to wash my hands several times throughout, but if you're doing that, you may find it's harder to manipulate the dough because your hands will stick. All right. Do you see how it's moving? Well, maybe you can't see. Let me try to show you how it is moving all over the board. I tend to keep my hands floured, and I try not to put a lot of flour because that will, again, change the consistency. But I will say that this is probably the most forgiving bread. And the way I my friend ended giving me this. Sorry, that wasn't correct English. But the reason I ended up getting this starter and recipe was because I was complaining about how much trouble I was having learning to use other sourdoughs, starters, and everything else. They just didn't work for me. All right, now I'm going to scoot back a little bit. Is that better? Can you see better? This is where it's gone from that bubbly mess. I'm going to split my dough in half. Okay. I love this for dinner rolls. I merely do the pinch dinner rolls and put them back on for rise for an 8.5 hour. I use a sided pan, for instance, a cake pan or 9x13 to keep the dough, the dinner rolls from going everywhere, but they have definite marks so that you can tell. When I grease my cast iron, I use about a tablespoon. And then, as you can see, I am greasing up my cast iron. I do have larger cast iron. I have a combo cooker for other sourdough. This recipe does not work well with those. It needs to be a sided pan. And I think that's probably the only thing about it that's okay. Now I'm going to pick up my bowl. I think I'll add a little more. And let it set on my counter for 8 to 8.5 hours. I'm looking for it to double in size. But it's a slow rise because you're not using a heavy yeast based starter. Do I have any, is there anybody that would like to ask a question or something that I've missed so far?
If any of you want to ask questions, you'll have to unmute. You must be doing a great job.
Thank you. I also use this. Go ahead.
So this recipe actually has no yeast at all.
None.
That's
There
that's
are
good.
other. Go ahead.
That's good because I have a daughter who has like an intolerance to yeast and loves bread. So thank you for this idea.
One of the reasons I was trying to do I was looking for a yeastless bread when I was doing sourdough because you don't use a lot in the traditional sourdoughs. You will use yeast, but I'm going to pull this back up to mine. In the traditional sourdoughs, you will use yeast, but you don't use as much as you would in a yeasted bread. She's on here, so now I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. Sorry, Annie. She had an allergy that we did not know what was causing it. We knew it was food based, but we didn't know what it was. And having said that, we were trying to eliminate certain things, and I knew that some of her symptoms could be mimicked by yeast. So turns out it wasn't the allergy. The allergy was not gluten based. It was something entirely different. But the blessing was that my family enjoys this bread enough that I have no problems making it now, even though it turned out we didn't need it for that.
Dad and I fight over the last.
Sure.
Dad and I fight over the last piece regularly.
I know. My family, bless their hearts, I don't like cheap bread. I don't like the way it tastes. So I buy like Pepperidge Farm or Arnold's or something along that line. The Arnold's will be sitting out for days and days and days, and I can't make this fast enough. I will say, first off, I should have prefaced with this. This is not the only potato sourdough bread recipe starter. It's not. There are all of them out there. I'm not saying this is any better or any worse. I just like that I do not have to carry it around with me. The other thing is it's very, as I said, it's very versatile. We do make your own pizza nights And I will do this ahead of time and use it for the pizza crust. I will make everybody's pizza crust ahead of time, and then they can make their own pizzas. Fresh pizza. Those recipes are not included in the PDF. That's just things I've played around with. I have, on occasion, when I want a different tasting bread, will half the water with stale beer that's been heated either to a boil and then let cool to remove the alcohol, or that I've let set out for days and days and days so that it's flat. In this house, I have a family full of mice. All of my kids think cheese is its own food group. And I have used cheddar cheese. I have used Swiss cheese. I have used mozzarella, both fresh and grated, block mozzarella. I have used different herbs. It does not, because the bacon can be so heavy, it doesn't rise as much if you use bacon, but we do enjoy bacon in there. Green onions. As a matter of fact, I have some of my green onions that I cut yesterday. I clipped them yesterday, and I'm going to put them in one of the loaves of bread that I'm going to use this dough for. What else, Annie?
Rosemary cheddar focaccia.
Yes. Okay. Some of you may know focaccia. It's a flat Italian bread that they usually top with cheeses and basil, rosemary, any number of things. We call it my cheddar focaccia bread. I will make it, let it get to its within an hour of its last rise, divide it into pizza pans, the round pizza pans, and then use that instead of a dedicated focaccia dough. I mentioned the cinnamon rolls and the pull-apart bread. There was
Pizza?
something else. I'm sorry, what?
Pancakes? Pancakes?
Pancakes. Yes. Yes. So if you want to do pancakes, thin the batter out. Don't worry about a second rise. Just let it I use the starter, I use the bread recipe, and I add enough water in it to make pancakes. And then I will continue the bread the rest of the way to do bread in the oven. So let me show you what it looks like when it is baked. So this is a piece that my the largest mouse in the house, my husband, got a hold of. If you look and see, it's got a fairly open crumb. And now I like to bake mine for about 45 minutes total. If I'm using my little Dutch oven, after about 20 minutes, I'll take the lid off. So, but this is the bowl. This just came out of the oven about 20 minutes before 12. Okay, so this is the bowl. There's the open crumb.
Is there any way we can get to smell it?
I wish you could, because I don't know how I've kept him off of it, my husband off of it long enough to.
I'm just jealous that you waited until I left to make the bread.
Yeah, well, you know.
Maybe you should have sent some to Oregon.
Fit to us.
The one thing I will tell you is there is no preservatives in here at all. So I don't recommend keeping it longer than about 5 to 7 days. If you notice that that you may not be able to eat it all in that time frame, I will take and slice about this thickness, put it in my oven on the lowest setting. I think mine is 170. And I will let it sit in that oven drying out for 2 to 3 hours. When it's completely dry, then I will throw it in a Ziploc bag and throw it in my freezer. And this is what I use to make breadcrumbs for anything, chicken, it doesn't matter, pork, whatever we're going to need breadcrumbs for. I have a Ninja food processor that I will chop them down. And if I want panko, which is the rougher grind of breadcrumb, then I don't grind it. I don't chop it down as long. But if I want the fine stuff, then I do. And then any that I have left over of that goes in the freezer, and I just add to it. So now, while I'm waiting for the other bread to come out of the oven, are there any more questions? Did anybody have any questions? Or am I not making sense and you'd like for me to cover something else again?
The dehydrated potatoes, where do you get those?
I use the cheapest I can get. I don't care if they're the Idaho brand or the ones that the little packets that you get at Dollar Tree. Don't use any of the flavored potatoes unless you want all of your bread, every loaf, to taste the same, like the garlic or the butter. That is another thing too. You can substitute part of the butter, a part of the oil for butter. Just make sure that it is softened and had time to cool. But these, I think I got these were a little packet from either Kroger or Walmart that, and I guess Safeway, maybe some of you may be familiar with Safeway, that's their store brand. So it's just the little instant potatoes.
Packages.
And I guess I should have apologized earlier. I don't know if you can hear, there's a small drone going on behind me. I am running my dehydrator, and I'm dehydrating onions that I've chopped to put that we can use in bread.
What temperature did you bake it at?
350. Now my oven is a little, I guess it's like its owner. It's kind of flaky, so I don't go any higher than 375, but sometimes I may have to bump the oven up a little bit.
If you make cinnamon rolls, since that dough was pretty loose, do you just make the way you usually make cinnamon rolls?
So the recipe is very simple. You let it do its complete rise, both rises. Pull the dough out, and pull the dough out at 10.5 hours. Add a little bit of extra flour so that you have a stronger dough, and then roll it out so that you can cut the strips. And before you cut it, that's when you'll add your cinnamon and your sugar and your butter filling.
Right. So you add a little flour before you start the cinnamon roll process. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And that recipe, as soon as I get off here and can turn around to my computer, I will make sure that Scott's got that recipe, the PDF file. I could have sworn I sent it to him, but hey, things have been kind of wild around here. But one of the things I think is easier is, instead of, having to cut out the strips for the roll and everything, then I just roll it up and start pulling off pieces and put it in a bundt pan for pull apart. And you can also, if you want to ice them, then whatever your favorite icing, the powdered sugar and water icing recipe. I do add sometimes a small, like half a teaspoon of vanilla. If I know that it's going to be for cinnamon rolls, then I will add a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of vanilla to the mix, which would make the 7th ingredient. But I don't do that all the time. Sorry, I thought I heard my husband.
So Pam, would you like to share your email with them so they can just email you directly and get that recipe?
Sure.
You could, and you might give it to them orally and then maybe type it into the chat too.
Okay, I can do that. So my email is Pamela, Pamela .Albaro at gmail.com. And then I'm going to type it right now. It is now in the chat. Or maybe not. Okay. All right. I thought it went through. Did it not?
No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it come in.
Okay.
I don't know. They've kind of changed the format on this chat a little bit. So if you're looking at her name, you can see how it's spelled and everything on the video part of it there. And if you can't get a hold of her, just send me an email and I'll make sure you get it. She'll send it to me and I'll email you back.
Well, how do you spell your last name?
A-L, B as in boy, A-R-O. It sounds much worse than it is.
Well, I don't think it's fair that you do that and not share some of the bread with you. I mean, you know, it's not more than 7 days from Tennessee to Oregon. You could have sent some with your daughter.
You know, I did. Well, she flew in. Well, I'll let her tell you. She flew into LAX and they picked her up there and went down to, they're going over to,
Mr. Teeples, I'd have brought you some.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe you'll have to make me some.
did you hear him, Annie?
Definitely.
Okay. All right.
So one of the things that I really want to make sure, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, so if it doesn't come across well, let me know, is just because I can't send you a packet of starter doesn't mean you can't make your own bread. Let me pull this back up where you can see me. Doesn't mean you can't make your own bread. You'll just follow those 3 ingredients. And if you'd like, I can give them to you again. But those 3 ingredients will produce the first time around starter that you will feed once every 5 to 8 days. And now the other thing is, if you're pulling it out of the fridge, which I do keep mine in the refrigerator, let it set to get to room temperature for about 10 hours, but that's it. So here's the starter. Again, it's 3 tablespoons of the instant potatoes, 1 cup of hot tap water between 103 and 115. I try to stay between 5 and 10. And you use tap water for this, and a half a cup of raw sugar, which this is a name brand. You can get it the generic and it works just fine, but it's the turbinado, however, I don't know. I just call it sugar in the raw, or raw sugar. So, and that is a half a cup. So did we have any other questions, or is there anything that I've forgotten?
Looks to me like
Pamela?
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt. How much hot
No.
water was that?
1.5 cups.
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
I'm lying to you. It's 1 cup of hot tap water. It's 1.5 cup in the bread, but 1 cup for the starter.
Oh, for the starter, it's 1 cup.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like the ingredients again for the bread?
I'll send an email to get that. Is that going to be in that email?
Yes, it will.
Okay, I'll just wait for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. As far as the bread itself goes, the big thing is to make sure you do your dry ingredients first and then add the liquid. And it's 3 and 3. There's 3 dry and 3 liquid. So there is a note on the recipe, and you'll see that where I have used whey for making cheese instead of tap water in the bread, not the starter, but in the bread. And I like that. So if you do make cheese or you have access to somebody that makes cheese, that's an option as well. Oh, that was something else I was going to mention. As long as you don't use butter, this is also a dairy-free.
That's really good for a lot of people.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for her? I just want to tell you how much I appreciate Pam doing this. I still don't think it's fair that she didn't send me any, but I think maybe Annie will get me some now.
Well, if you want to come to our conference in November, you are more than welcome. I will make sure you have some.
Yeah. Do you want to give a little plug for your convention while you're here?
Sure. The Tennessee State Conference is in November. Is it November 16th, Amy? November 16th through the 19th, I believe. It is going to be in Kingsport, which is East Tennessee, close to the North Carolina-Tennessee state line. We have, some of you may not understand, Tennessee is made up of 3 regions, East, Central, and West. And each year we rotate, the regions rotate hosting the state conference. But if anyone is interested in information on that, I can send it to, I can send it in the email as well. This year, our theme is the wings of on the wings of FCE. So I'm very excited about that. Next year, which is November 16th through November 17th through the 20th, we're going to be in Paris Landing, Tennessee at the brand new Paris Landing Lodge. And we're the one thing that excites all of us is we're going to have whole facility access. There won't be anybody there but us. So, and Scott, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I enjoyed prepping for it and getting some of my baking stuff out that I have not done in several months.
Well, I believe it's the 12th through the 15th.
Thank you, Amy. The 12th through the 15th in Kingsport this year, and next year is the 17th.
Yes, ma'am. There you go.
Okay.
So what was the correct dates for this year?
November 12th. Go ahead, Amy.
12th through the 15th.
Okay, I think I may have put that on the national website under the newsletter or something like that. I hope I did. If they send it to me, I put it on there.
Okay.
In that.
All
Scott, right. Well, I really appreciate that, and just letting everybody know that it will be sometime hopefully today, if I get time. I have to go ref a volleyball game in a little while, and I'll be able to get this recording on here, and it'll actually be on YouTube. But the easiest way to get to it is go to the Oregon FCE website, and there'll be a link there that you can just go to it. You can also see what some of the upcoming lessons are going to be. Thank you very much, Pamela.
Well, thank you for allowing me to do this. I appreciate it.
Oh, I don't allow anybody. It's my privilege.
And Scott, will you send us the recipes, Pam's recipes?
Who is asking? Is that
Marja is asking, will you send Pam's FD
Yeah.
PDF with the recipes?
I will, and if I forget, would you please send me an email? I know you know how to email me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll let everybody go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.